They say engineering is humanity's greatest shield: steel, concrete, mathematics. But those same elements can turn against us faster than we can breathe. 11 seconds. That's how long it took for bridges, walkways, dams, and spaceships, icons of progress, to vanish. The bridge that whispered. The Tay Bridge Disaster, 1879. Scotland, December 28, 1879. A winter storm screams across the River Tay. Through the rain, a train approaches the Great Iron Bridge, the longest in the world. Its designer, Sir Thomas Bouch, called it proof that Britain had conquered nature. At 7:13 p.m., the express from Edinburgh, full of Sunday travelers, enters the high girders. Passengers lean toward the window, watching lightning flash on black waves. Then, one eyewitness report says, the lights disappeared. The middle span, a half-mile of lattice iron, dropped into the river, taking the train and 75 souls with it. Survivors, none. Rescuers found torn metal twisted like paper, bolts sheared clean off. Investigators discovered corroded supports and cast-iron columns hollowed by rust. Bouch had over-engineered the glory and underbuilt the safety. He'd even reused cheap foundry castings, ignoring earlier wind tests. It took less than 11 seconds for the entire bridge to disintegrate, and with it, his reputation. When they stripped his knighthood, he murmured only, "My bridge, my bridge." He died a year later, broken as the metal he designed. The Walkway of Death, Hyatt Regency Collapse, 1981, Kansas City, Missouri. Friday evening, July 17, 1981. Inside the Hyatt Regency Hotel, a crowd gathers for a dance. 3 glass walkways hang above the lobby, balconies of steel and elegance. Music, laughter, champagne, then a sound no one expected. A snap. For months, engineers had debated how to suspend those elevated bridges. The final contractor suggested a shortcut, 2 rods instead of 1, faster to install. On paper, it looked fine. In practice, the weight doubled on each connector. At 7:05 p.m., the rods tore free. The overhead walkways plunged onto the crowd below. The entire collapse lasted less than 4 seconds. More than 110 people were crushed to death, many couples frozen mid-dance. Rescue teams said the chandeliers kept glowing above, as though the party never stopped. A single drawing change, an unnoticed revision in a faxed blueprint, turned an architectural triumph into a vertical graveyard. The project manager later said, "We saved a day and lost everything." The dam that didn't listen. Teton Dam Failure, 1976, Eastern Idaho, June 5, 1976. The Teton Dam, a 300-foot-tall earthen leviathan, held back billions of gallons of water. It was new, so new that dedication day hadn't even been scheduled. At 7:30 a.m., workers notice muddy water jetting from a small hole near the base. They patch it. At 9 a.m., the hole reappears. By 10:30, the concrete apron begins to quake. Local man Archie Elam drives his pickup onto the crest to photograph the leak. He captures one of the final images before the wall explodes. Witnesses describe a sound, like thunder in reverse, as the entire structure liquefies. Within 11 minutes, 80 billion gallons of water roar from the canyon, enough to cover 20 cities. 11 people died and 13,000 cattle. The Bureau of Reclamation accepted full guilt. Seams had been filled with sand instead of clay. Inspectors dismissed warnings as construction dust. The flood flattened 300 square kilometers. When pilots flew over the void afterward, they said it looked as if the earth had been bitten. The bridge that should have lived forever. Morandi Bridge Collapse, 2018. Genoa, Italy. Morning rain, August 14th. Thunder rolls, like the day at Tay Bridge long ago. The Morandi Bridge carried thousands of cars daily, an artery of modern Europe. Residents called it the White Bridge, sleek cables, reinforced concrete, unbreakable. At 11:36 a.m., a tower segment snapped. By 11:37, 200 yards of roadway folded into the valley below. It took 11 seconds. Eyewitness video captured the tilt, a slow lean, then an impossible silence before the drop. 43 people died. Investigations exposed decades of corrosion under decorative concrete shells. Maintenance budget slashed by privatized owners. One safety report 3 months earlier warned, Probability of failure cannot be excluded. It wasn't excluded. It arrived on schedule. And when it fell, commuters on the surviving span, just feet away, sat frozen for hours, afraid the rest would follow. The machine that fell from heaven. Space Shuttle Challenger, 1986. Cape Canaveral, Florida, January 28, 1986. A new generation watched on live television. The first teacher in space, Krista McAuliffe, waving. The aerospace world promised perfection. NASA's engineers had known about the O-ring flaw for months, rubber seals that stiffened in cold weather. That morning was freezing. Several engineers pleaded to delay the launch. Managers brushed them aside. Schedule, budget, publicity, pressure greater than gravity itself. At 11:38 a.m., Challenger lifted off in a white pillar of fire. 73 seconds later, bright fragments began spiraling down through a cloud of smoke shaped like a question mark in the sky. 7 astronauts vanished in front of millions. The world stood silent, children in classrooms across America watching live. Later, the Rogers Commission concluded the cause: seal failure due to cold. But the real error was culture, a system that rated deadlines above doubt. Morton Theacle engineer Alan McDonald, who tried to stop the launch, testified, "I found out a launch decision could be made without engineering's consent. That should never happen again." The thread that ties them all. Across a century, 1879 to 2018, technology changed, but human nature didn't. Whether bridge or rocket, the chain reaction always began with the same spark. Someone too confident to pause. Each disaster had warnings: bolts shearing at Tay, faxed blueprints at Hyatt, leaks at Teton, corrosion at Morandi, ice at Challenger. Each time people knew, but dreams outweighed danger, and each failure unfolded faster than anyone could react. Engineers say the critical collapse time of large structures averages about 11 seconds. In those seconds, power becomes helplessness, calculations become screams, blueprints become memorials. Aftermath, the price of precision. The remnants of Tay Bridge still stand as a skeleton by its replacement, iron bones touching the water like a warning. At Kansas City, a new Hyatt hotel never rebuilt that walkway. It remains an atrium of absence. In Genoa, they erected a replacement bridge with red lights that blink every August 14th, one for each victim. And every January, NASA engineers still meet in silence to read the names of Challenger's crew. These rituals aren't for closure, they're for remembrance. Because progress forgets quickly, and industry has a habit of calling itself invincible again. Closing reflection, 11 seconds to oblivion. Every human structure wears its maker's hubris. Every bolt carries a heartbeat. When we build, we feel immortal. When it falls, we remember that steel and pride crack the same way. 11 seconds, enough for one breath, one decision, one last look into the sky. That's how long it takes for centuries of trust to become dust. Because no matter how perfect the calculation, there's always one variable engineers cannot control: us.